Well, as global equity markets whipsawed on every piece of news heading up to Donald Trump's surprise election, Bitcoin steadily rose. For a look at whether the cryptocurrency can become a full-fledged safe haven asset, we are joined by Christopher Burniske, blockchain products lead at ARK Investment in New York. Chris, great to have you, rather. So what does Trump victory mean for Bitcoin?
Well, a Trump victory for Bitcoin, what we initially saw with it is Bitcoin spiked in its price. This is where people turn to it as what I like to call a disaster hedge due to its non-correlation with the capital markets. The futures plummeted and Bitcoin spiked. In terms of going forward, something really interesting that I noticed is as the capital markets recovered on Wednesday, Bitcoin gave back some gains. So this may be people starting to think about what does a Trump administration mean for Bitcoin. Generally, I would say that what Mr. Trump needs to consider is this idea that his message has been for the people. And Bitcoin is similarly a currency for the people. It's been a grassroots movement, and if he wants to be bringing in innovation and new business models to the U.S., I think this gives him an opportunity to do so. I think it'll be interesting to see how it coincides with his policies regarding Mexico. If he tries to put some capital controls on Mexico regarding the wall, we could see people turning to Bitcoin, similar to what we've seen with China. But it's going to be very interesting going forward.
Right, and yet you talk about it being sort of a haven in a disaster scenario, and yet certainly the response from the equity market with the Dow Jones at a record this week and the S&P having a terrific week as well, the 500 rather, maybe he won't be a disaster, and therefore is Bitcoin really that much of a haven?
Well, it's been really interesting, right? When the polls initially turned towards Trump, it certainly looked like things were going to be a disaster. But I 100% agree with you. The markets are definitely figuring out how to proceed, and I think Bitcoin will continue its non-correlation with traditional capital market assets, and so that's where investors are waking up to it as a haven in the context of modern portfolio theory. If you put an asset into your portfolio that's not correlated with the other assets, it can actually draw down the volatility of the portfolio at large. For example, ARK has done this with its own ETFs. We put Bitcoin into two of our ETFs, and one of the reasons being that its non-correlation makes it a good hedge against the capital markets.
Okay, Chris, it's John Johnston here. I have a bunch of friends who are gold bugs, and they said a lot of the same things you did, but where you said Bitcoin, they said gold. And gold obviously has not performed in the same manner. Are we seeing a shift here away? Is Bitcoin kind of eating gold's lunch here a little bit and supplanting it as a form of alternative currency?
I think that's a great point. I think of some of Bitcoin's narrative is as gold 2.0. It's like gold that you can teleport. It's got a deflationary supply schedule, so it will cap out at 21 million units. And so that, as a store of value, is really appealing to a lot of people, especially in a climate where we're seeing experimental monetary policy. And the effects of that are still playing out, whether it be Japan, Venezuela, China, as these currencies, especially with China and Venezuela, the bolivar, as they experience, as they devalue, citizens in those countries are turning to Bitcoin as gold 2.0.